this is kind of a twofer, and this is kind of interesting the way this all worked out. I mean, you know, we have lunch and learns, and we didn't know that we're going to have kind of related stuff when we do these things.
It's fantastic.
But it just worked out that way.
Yeah.
So thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Tim, you want to give us a little introduction on who the heck is this guy?
I'll cover something, no big deal. Yeah, no worries.
All right.
No worries.
The floor's yours.
That's it. That's it. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I know each of your time is valuable, staying for lunch. You guys heard a lot of great truths, so I'm more than honored to be here. Build a phenomenal job. You know, coming off the top 3 TED Talks that someone's heard before, and I didn't write 7 books. I've never been on PBS.
All right, we're out of here. Any questions?
Exactly. Well, see you guys later. I joke around. I work with an N of 1, so I'm in practice full time. I have the person in front of you that has real issues going on in their life, and a lot of times they try other places. So it's trying to navigate who they are, what's going on with them. And so that's what I can bring to you today, and that's what I want to share with you. It's really interesting, actually, the content that you went over, because Bill talks so much about the psychological component of stress, all right, how that affects us, and those are things that we can perceive. And I want to talk about the physiological aspects of stress, which is really interesting because it fires a lot of these same responses inside of us. When he's going through this page, just stressing your appointment, and then it fuels this cycle. And I'm going to get to this in a little bit, but just interesting stuff. So that was awesome. Little bit, real brief. We don't have a lot of time. My background, I was actually in school to become a nurse originally. So how many people seen Meet the Parents? Right? I was going to be Gaylord Fokker. I was going to be the male nurse of the family, right, doing this thing. We had some health issues going on, and so I changed career paths. I went to school in Dallas, Texas. I got my doctorate of chiropractic. Had some good people around me during my life at that point in time. Got selected to be an intern at the Dallas Veterans Hospital. Ended up opening practice in Raleigh, North Carolina, where I was part of the Wellness Advisory Council for USA Wrestling, Judo, weightlifting. Went to the Olympics in London in 2012 on their behalf, and then we had some really unfortunate family circumstances that kind of made my wife and I analyze, do we want to be in Raleigh, and we decided to sell that practice and move back to be closer to family. And we have 10 nieces, 2 nephews, and we have a 6-month-old now, all within a couple hour radius. So really glad to be back. And in the last 3 years of my life, I had 2 mentors in my life that both have been in practice over 35 years and have just taken me under their wing and poured into my life. And I'm more than humbled and honored to have them in there, because these are both guys that are really highly respected, really humble people that ultimately see results with patients. And I can tell you, when you or your loved one or one of your family members is dealing with health issues, what you want to see is results. And so to have them pour into my life, kind of give me a functional medicine approach to how we practice has been great. I do know that you say the word chiropractic, because I'm a doctor of chiropractic, the response you have to address, because half the room's like, oh, that's cool. Then you got the quarter of them that's like, these guys are the best things since sliced bread. And then you get the other quarter that's like, this guy's not even a real doctor. Like, this guy's a quack, what's he doing up there right now, you know? And so that's, your opinion on that. But what's great about chiropractic is that when we go through school, it's very parallel to medical school. We get the basic sciences, we get anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, and then eventually we branch off and go to different specialties versus other schools. But there's a lot of autonomy to kind of pursue different areas, and chiropractic is more of a natural healthcare approach, which is great. But the problem with it is that you go to one chiropractor, it's completely different than the next, right? You go to McDonald's and you get a Big Mac. You know what a Big Mac is. You know what it's going to smell like. You eat every day. You know you're going to have health issues. Like, there's all that stuff that goes with the Big Mac. We know that. But when you go to chiropractic, like I said, you go one versus the other, and I think I'm guilty of that because I don't necessarily have a typical chiropractic approach. When you come in, just slam bam, see you later, put some muscle stim on you. Like, we've really delved into the science and the physiology, and that's what I want you to understand, is that what I'm sharing with you isn't my opinion. I didn't think of this last night. I wasn't like, man, this might be a good thing to just talk about, or some philosophy. This is the research and science, and any medical doctor, oncologist, like I said, pediatrician will let you know that it hasn't changed. So that's what I want to share, because, and this is how I want to go about it, because I want to just take health from a different context. That's really what it is. When you look at an Eastern medicine approach to a Western medicine, it's just the context of health, how they view it, and how they want to go about it is what's different. So here's our reality right now. We have our current level of health, okay? And so if we fast forward 5, 10, 15 years, and we put energy and effort towards our health, we want to see our health improve over a course of time, right? So when we're 5 years down the road, we want to be at or better off where we're at, realizing that no one lives forever, we're gonna die, right? So like, it's not that you're gonna be invincible, and that the path might look a little wavy up and down, but we want to see that moving in the right direction. Versus, we don't do anything. We take a very passive approach, and we end up just going down to where all of a sudden 5-10 years down the road, we have more chronic, more illness, more sickness, and it's not a good path, right? Does anybody kind of relate to that, where you've just seen that decline in their family or someone they love? It's a very, very sad situation. And there's a gap, and right here's the gap. There's concepts that really is going to determine if we're going to move up the path or we're going to move down this path. And you talk about highest priority, Bill, and this is a great, great concept, because when it comes to health, I don't want to use the word argument because I feel like that's confrontational, so I don't want to use that word, but my statement, I guess, would be that health and what he was talking about is one of the highest priorities, maybe one or two in your life. And we may not realize it until we get pressed. And so here's what I mean by that. Here's how I'll go about this. Let's say you, your loved one, your spouse, your child has a softball-sized tumor in their stomach, okay? Doctor comes up to you and says, listen, if that tumor doesn't get removed, in 6 months that cancer's going to spread and they're not going to live another 2 years. Okay, so that's what the doctor told you. So your option is to cut it out, all right? If you cut it out, you're going to be fine. What would you pay to get the tumor removed? Seriously, what would you pay? Where would you travel to? How much time would you take off work? What would you be willing to do at that point in time? You would do anything. I can tell you, my 6-month-old man, I would literally give my life to get that tumor out of the kid's stomach, 100%. And it's at that moment because there's such a black and white, there's no gray area in that one, right? And so it's a really easy way to kind of, oh yeah, well, doc, I get that, right? It's black and white, I'm not in that situation. But when push comes to shove, health is up there, okay? And so when he's talking about, well, you have to have this as a priority to fix this feedback loop so we can be this person. Because what happens if we don't think it's that important, and we just kind of take a passive approach to it. Well, if all of a sudden you're a reactive person and you're not, you fly off the seat of your handle, and your kid comes to you at a time that's really important, that they need you to pour into them in a way that's going to help them the rest of their life, and you've not put the energy in, and all of a sudden you get that one chance, and you've just let yourself drift down here, and that one opportunity comes, guess what happens? You blow it, you know, and not in a mean way, but it's important. So again, we don't want to just try to go, well, I want to be perfect in one day. No, we have to put the building blocks in place to get up higher. The same thing happens in we can look at traumatic diseases, right, in our culture. The top two disease killers in our country are going to be what? Heart disease and cancer, all right? So those are great examples of health, all right? So here's what I mean by this. Because how do we know? This is the gap, by the way. Because I want to get into this. We're going to use heart disease and cancer to explain it. We need to define health. We all want to be healthy. Agree? Yes, we want to be healthy. So if we dive into this, how do you know if you're healthy or if you're sick? How do we know? Right? How you feel? And then the other one is how you look. If we're hanging out at Walmart, we're asking 100 people, they're coming by, so like, how do you know if you're healthy or sick? Well, I look good or I feel good. Or the other question is, well, if you woke up this morning, how do you know if you're healthy or sick? Well, I look good or I feel good. Let's look back at just what we just talked about, heart disease and cancer. Okay? Can you have stage 4 cancer building in your body right now and not feel it? Unfortunately, yes. Can you be on the verge of a heart attack and not know it? Unfortunately, yes. That's a scary situation, because then, again, now we look at that, we just think, oh man, I was just bad luck or bad genes. We were down here on this path of health when we didn't even realize it because we weren't taking the necessary effort or intention for our health to move in the right direction. Does this make sense a little bit, that concept? So we need to, if we want to get healthy, we have to define it, because the opposite spectrum is true of that same situation. Let's look at food poisoning, all right? How many people have food poisoning? Food poisoning, okay, yeah. My sister gave it to me twice. True story, true story. One time I was watching my first niece. She was, old enough to where she's eating solid foods. My sister's like, can you babysit? I'm like, oh, absolutely, absolutely, love to. So I go over there and we're playing around. She's like, anything in the house is yours, cupboards. We got tons of food in the, fridges and everything. I'm like, awesome, this is great. 10 years ago now, and maybe more, but so I go into the freezer out on the garage, and I open it up, and there's these cheesy-filled soft pretzels, like those little nugget ones. I'm like, I haven't had these things in a long time. I'm definitely gonna make this box. So I go in, I put it in the toaster oven because I want to be healthy and not nuke it, right? So like I'm doing everything, I'm warming them up, and I'm giving her the bread on the outside, and I'm popping these things in, man. Tire box goes down, and it's about 6 hours later, and I'm going down for the count, you know, and I'm like, this is not good. My mom calls it the number 3, it's coming up both ends. And so what happens, right, I'm feeling terrible, I call my sister, she's like, yeah, no, it sounds like food poisoning, what'd you eat? I'm like, oh, I ate a whole box of cheese pretzels in the garage. She's like, she starts laughing. I'm like, what are you laughing at? She's like, that freezer has not worked in 6 months. It'll turn on, like completely thaw, and then it'll like refreeze. It's like doing that through the heat of summer, by the way, this entire time. So I'm just down for the count, but what's the point of the story? Well, you're eating a piece of toxic food, right? So what does your body want to do? What's the healthy response in that case?
Get rid of it.
Get rid of that thing. Like I said, it's coming out both ends explosively. It's terrible. But it's you feel terrible, but it's a completely healthy response, right? So health is not how you look and how you feel, it's how you function. It's not how you look and how you feel, it's how you function. If there's one important key concept that's going to help you determine if you're going to go up or down this path, is defining health. Because here's the reality. The people that look good or they feel good, and they get the hardest, guys, they look good and they felt good. Like, you've had people that, oh, yeah, that's not true. I'm telling you, we probably don't have to reach out that far to know someone personally that's had that situation happen in their life, right? And so this just kind of creeped up on them because they didn't realize that it's not how you look and how you feel, it's how you function. So the next question then is, well, how do you measure function, right? Like you have your liver sitting inside you, kidneys, all those things. Like, how's your liver doing right now? How is it? Good. Like, how the kidneys doing? All right, doc, we're doing all right. You know, the absence of symptoms doesn't mean health. Now, the other thing is exactly what Bill's talking about today, is that when you do feel a symptom, what we want to do is use those as triggers or signals inside of our body saying, hey, listen, something's not quite right here. We don't just want to ignore those with the old adage when we grew up, oh, just rub some dirt on it, but it ain't broke, don't fix it. You're a tough guy, like, you're like ankles half off, some bailing hay up the country, you know, like your dad's like, oh, do it, you know. That's what we grew up as, so that kind of carried through. We want to listen to our body and understand that it might not be functioning the way it's supposed to, and start to link those things through exactly like you talked about in the check engine, okay? If that shows up, we want to listen to that and figure out why is the check engine light on in our car, all right? Same thing in our body. So, now, if it's not how you look and how you feel, we need to talk about function, which is going to help us drive up that traffic. So the three I'm going to explain a little bit more in detail today are going to be blood work, hair analysis, and urine hormone testing, which we referenced briefly. Some of the other ways that you can just tell is FMS, functional movement systems. You have a really expensive car, so explain to me this way, if you have a really expensive car and that thing is shifted out of Lamborghinis and you hit the tire out of alignment and that thing's just all wobbly, you're never going to get the performance that you should out of that thing. Right? Structurally, it's not there. If we start to see people that they're starting to come forward like this and barely turn their head side to side, and then they end up, we also like elderly, like, you know, and they're walking around like this and they can barely turn. That is a stressor to your body. It causes these same types of symptoms when it comes down to a stress response. Just like all this stuff feeds this cycle and it goes back down and it causes more stress on you. That's what this does as well, because it deals with something called the cerebellum. Cerebellum deals with all this motion. When you lock down your posture like this and we sit like this for hours and hours on end, it's literally like having someone in the room that is, let's just see, that's making you feel like you're under a deadline, you're complaining, their in-laws, that stressor they feel, that's what it's like for your body, you don't even realize it. It's constantly feeding that feedback loop, and your cortisol goes up, you have more stress response, it's a non-stop cycle, just based on posture alone, right? That's a functional movement. When we go side to side, we can get our ears almost 45 degrees, right? When we turn over, look at our blind spot, that's a functional movement that we should be able to do. When we squat down, I was taught to squat, you do one of these things, all right? Just keep your knees behind your toes, okay? Well, the problem with that is that when you look at it, I'm flexing my back so hard, it strains all the muscles, it sets myself up for injury versus coming straight down, coming back up. All these little things that, again, we've been programmed over time just to deal with, that we don't realize affects our function for us long term down the road. Okay? Same thing with the eyes, tongue. We won't go a lot into that stuff. We could spend a whole really 2 hours on these things. But when you look at the eyes or the tongue, any of these observational, the skin's the same way. Any of these observational markers, that's just an indicator of how your body's doing. And so this one I'll give you. When you look at the eyes, when you look at someone's eye, when you look them in the eyes, look at the color of their eye, okay? Because many times you're going to see someone will have a blue eye, or they even have brown eyes, but right around the pupil, okay, it'll be like a brown color, or it'll be a different color in the brown eye, okay? When you see that, and you start to notice it, I'm telling you, you start looking for this stuff, you'll see it. That's an indicator. It's not diagnostic, but that's an indicator that there's some sort of digestive issue going on in that person, okay? We see it over and over again, so you start to see that, and then they stick their tongue out, and they have this white coating over the tongue. That's again an indicator that the flora, their gut bacteria, is off in their stomach. They have ridges on the outside, a big crease down the middle, inflamed pupils in the back. You start to look at these things, and you're like, that's not normal, right? Like, that's not a normal thing. All we want to do is cooperate with the way your body was designed. That's all we try to do when we look at someone. So someone comes in, they have, man, I got digestive issues, I got, stress, I got tiredness, fatigue, you name it. Well, what's normal, and how are you deviating from that, okay? And so all these, like I said, we've taken all the information. Does it match their symptoms? Does it match what we're seeing in the lab test? Does it match this? Does it match that? If all this stuff is kind of pointing towards the same direction, we can feel confident that this is what's going on, and we make a recommendation. We'll see the symptomatic and objective changes as time goes on. That's all we try to do, okay? So we'll use these as some of the objective markers to see how your body's functioning. Does that make sense? Are you guys with me on this one? Okay. So, we talked about functional tests. Let's dive a little bit into these, especially blood work. How many people here have had blood work done? Yeah, that's what I love about blood work, right? So we talk about the pros, and these are written on your paper, so you don't have to rewrite these. You can take them. They're part of standard of care, right? Like I said, everyone has a blood work done at some point in time in their life. It's real-time feedback. What that means is that when you take your blood, that's how your body's doing at that moment. And so I guarantee if you get your blood work done, and you are stressed out, you hit deadlines, you were under a time crunch, and you take that blood work, it'll look different than a week later practicing what Bill taught you, and you're able to manage that and perceive that stress better and deal with it. That quick, it can happen. That's why you have to do fasting blood work, right? Because the things that you can put in your mouth that day, it matters, okay? So they have blood work. We use it. It'll help us with 4 major areas when I look at blood work. One of them is how you regulate blood sugar, okay? How you regulate blood sugar is vastly important to your stress response. So when someone talks about getting hangry, their blood sugar is dropping inside there. And so now we step back like, okay, now if they're having trouble falling asleep, having trouble staying asleep, that goes back to what they'll talk about, cortisol, okay, epinephrine, norepinephrine. Their stress hormones are off the chain. Yes, it can be your brain's wired, but it can also be a physiological component of blood sugar regulation. So when your blood sugar isn't sustaining you to heal and repair throughout the night, your body's going to go, we need more blood sugar. And it dumps in epinephrine, norepinephrine, and cortisol in the middle of the night, and you wake up, all of a sudden you're wired because that whole stress response, whether it's an internal stressor or a perceived stressor it's someone else, is still a stressor in your body. That makes sense? So then if you're tired when you're in the morning, if you get the afternoon drop from 2 to 4 in the afternoon, that's a backdoor blood sugar issue because it affects your adrenal glands. The adrenal glands are what produces cortisol, epinephrine, norepinephrine, all right? So blood sugar is a major value that we're going to get when I talk about important health markers. Another one's going to be thyroid. Thyroid that's a massive one, and seriously, we could spend 3 hours on thyroid. If you went to your doctor and they've measured, and they say, oh, your thyroid's good, and they've only run TSH, just know that that's a very ineffective marker of your thyroid function, okay? And so if you have loved ones that are still, man, I'm just tired, I'm cold, I'm really struggling with my weight, my mental clarity, my digestion's off, thyroid affects every single cell of your body, okay, as does blood sugar regulation. Affects every single cell of your body, so you can have a myriad of symptoms from something like that. And so the thyroid needs to have important markers, free T3, free T4, some of the other ones that you go into to actually analyze how that thyroid is functioning. But I just want you to know from takeaway today, TSH only is not an effective marker of thyroidism. Like I said, we'll cut it off there, all right, because we won't make it to hair analysis in the other one. Common markers are frequently run too, like your blood glucose, your cholesterol, your triglycerides. Those are run, on a yearly basis. A lot of companies are running those things as part of a wellness assessment every year. Fantastic. Okay, we have access to them. Here's the important thing, and this is why I want to start with blood. We're going to spend a chunk of time on this because there's some major limitations to blood work, and we need to understand this because when your doctor just says, "Hey, you're good, clean bill of health," and they leave you on down the road. That is not always the case, okay? And here's why. Let's start with this. The first one is how they're determined. what happens? Most of the values are determined by this, all right? They take all the values. So let's just say you go to the hospital down the road here. Everyone gets their hospital. Thousands and thousands and thousands of people get their glucose run, okay, their blood sugar. What they do is they take all those numbers and they write a bell curve on them, okay? And they say, great, you found outside the bell curve, so now you show up a little L on your marker, on your lab work, or you got that little H, or bolded, right? Those are out of lab range. And they say, okay, now we have a problem, let's address this thing. Well, here, you can see two problems. Number one, that's a huge range of normal. Normal, all right? That's considered it. So you can literally be hovering, and I see it all the time, hovering right here. Oh, no worries, yep, everything looks great, everything looks great. Or even worse, if you've had a series in your company where people are running blood work, and they were at 80, 90, 96, 99, and 100's their cutoff for lab value, they'll just say, oh, no problems. The trend is not good for that person. They're clearly moving towards blood sugar issues, right? But it doesn't show up on the H or the L, so it never gets a second look. The other problem is, 5 out of 6 people in our country get heart disease and cancer. Alzheimer's is on the rise. Diabetes is on the rise. We're not good from a chronic illness standpoint. Would everyone agree on that one? Like, again, we don't have to go far. Just from, I can attest my own family on that one. Literally heart disease, cancer, Alzheimer's, let's see, it was grandpa. I mean, right there, I only have one living left. And those are the diseases that affected our family. So what we want to do is narrow that down and look more of a functional or optimal range. Okay? Because if we can compare to more of what's an optimal, what really does it take for you to function, right? That's what we want to see, because now we can start to see these trends before it gets to you, whatever that it is, whatever the disease process they want to name. And think about the insanity of this for a second. You're training, you're at 99 for glucose, we're just going to use that one, it's easy. And they say, no problems. As soon as you tip over the 100 mark, they're like, all right, now we'll step in and do something about it. Here's a medication for you. All right, that literally is the equivalent of saying, I got some chest pain, I got arm pain going on my left side here. You go in, go to the doctor, they check it out. No heart attack. See you later, come back when you have a heart attack and we'll treat you. Excuse me? Like, this doesn't quite match up, you know, like what do I do about this thing? And so that's what we want to do, is try to figure out, how do we do this? Now, guys, I say that, but it's really, really important to understand where my heart is when it comes to doctors, because this is important. Your doctor is not a bad person in any way, shape, or form. Seriously, they go into medical school. It's a grueling process, right? MCATs, boards, internships. They spend 8 years of their life doing it. And what happens is that they come out of school and they have this debt. Let's just call it $100,000 worth of debt. Okay. Now they have families that are already in their mid-20s. They lost all that earning, that income potential while they were in school, right? They weren't making any money because it was a full-time job for them. So now they come out with all this stressor. And they get hired into a system, okay, that says, listen, you're going to make 100 grand a year, 120 grand a year, right? You're a doctor, this is awesome, but here's the parameters that we now have set for you. You get 8 minutes with a patient, right? That's what you get to do. And you know what? If you try to not do the standard of care, what everyone else is doing, that sets them up for an issue. So here's what I mean by that. If they have outside of glucose, we're just going to keep with this one. If your blood sugar is outside the range, and instead of giving you a medication to lower it, they try to lifestyle advice, say, hey, listen, I would maybe cut out some sugar, start doing this, start doing that, and heaven forbid, something coincidentally happens to that person, it sets them up now for a lawsuit, because the person comes back and they ask the doctor, doctor, why does all of your colleagues give metformin? Why did you decide to do lifestyle advice? This makes no sense. Everyone else is doing this, why did you not follow standard of care? Well, guess who standard of care is set by a lot of times? Not conspiracy, but it's by the people that have billions and billions and billions of dollars to influence these things, right? Does this make sense? When it comes to lifestyle chronic issues, and it's a massive issue that I think all of us have dealt with personally, or someone we really love. So again, they're just kind of inside their parameter, doing what they can to the best of their degree. Yeah? You okay with that one? Like I said, I don't want to villainize and make you like, man, they're screwing you over. They're not. They're absolutely doing the best they can inside that system. It's just a hard system. The other limitation that we're going to see with it is that the heart, some of the important health markers, which I have written for you on the next page, we're going to go over some of them, they're not part of the standard of care. So why not? It goes back to exactly this. If you run homocysteine, which we're going to talk about, if you run homocysteine and don't have a drug to correct homocysteine, then what do? Why would you run that marker? Because now you run the marker, and if that comes back abnormal, you're now liable for that as the doctor. Like you're responsible to see that abnormal marker and do something to the patient, but they don't have anything to do inside their system to address it. You see what I'm saying? So the important markers are not only like, that doesn't fit inside the 8 minutes, but the other thing is that, guess what insurance is not gonna cover? That marker. And so that goes into the whole thing. They measure what's available. That's the second concept. But the insurance thing is really, really important to understand, because now we get to the cost of it. Well, I want this marker run. All right, it's really important. I read about it. I understand this marker. So you go to your doctor, please run this marker. Vitamin D is just a good example. Really important marker that we want to know. All of us should know about is vitamin D. You're like, Doc, I want this number run. Okay. So what happens is that because they've now contracted with an insurance company, they have to charge you the insurance rate on a marker. So what that means is that when you go to the ER and you get an aspirin and you look at your bill and you're like, I got $40 for an aspirin, I would never pay $40 for an aspirin out of pocket. But because they're contracted with the insurance companies, if you literally were like, no, I want the aspirin, they're like, $40. That's what I can't have a dual fee schedule. I can't charge you one thing and insurance another. You get to pay $40. A true story on this, when I ran a marker, it was full thyroid, she had some issues inside there. It was about $320 in our office would be the cost of the patient. You can get a pretty complete blood work, by the way, for about $250 out of pocket for it, okay? Just so you know, but this would have been about $320 in the office. Well, my patient had a complete 100% coverage. She works for the Gov, and she's like, no, it's covered, even if you recommend it, absolutely. I'm contracted with Quest, one of the largest labs in the nation, and the only difference was that instead of her coming to my office and getting the blood drawn in my office, she literally had it drawn in Milwaukee. The samples, either picked up at my office or in the place in Milwaukee, get shipped down to Illinois, the exact same processing center, okay? So literally the exact same thing, $320, cash contractor rate. Guess what they billed her insurance? $2,700.
Wow.
Paid it, no issues. 100% paid it. Didn't even think twice about it.
Because it was covered.
Covered. $320 to $2,700. You guys, it's just an important one to understand. Like I said, there's a huge disconnect inside there. And why does it matter? Because it affects you and your family. You're an N of one. When it's someone that you know and you care about and you're dealing with issues, then man, we want to do everything we can to get what's necessary for you. So the other thing, as I briefly mentioned this morning, is that when you do blood work, it's only measuring what's floating in the blood or the serum. So like your calcium, it's just measuring what's floating around your calcium. We don't have any idea how much of that calcium is actually being utilized by the cells, right? Same with hormones. Cortisol, it's just measuring how much cortisol is floating around in the blood. We don't know how that's actually getting broken down and used on the cellular level, right? Still some valuable markers, but we talked about thyroid, glucose. The other two really important ones that you're gonna get from blood are gonna be vitamin D, okay, D as in dog, and then the last one is gonna be anemia issues. If they, especially females, if they just run an iron, serum iron, and they say, oh, you're good, don't worry about anemia, massive mistake, because number one, it's not always iron deficiency anemia, that's the issue. Number two, there's something called ferritin, which is your iron store. That's a much better gauge of how much iron you actually have available in your body. And so you have to look at another lab marker that goes in with it. Again, we're not going to go too nerdy on it, but those four things, the reason they're so important is they affect every single cell of your body, okay? And when it affects every single cell, we want to know about it. So these are some of the absolutely important markers I've written down there for you. Vitamin D, homocysteine is an inflammatory and cardiovascular marker. When we see that functionally, we want to see that below 8. We got the iron panel with ferritin, again, 80 to 100 for a cycling female. That's kind of the general rule. Comprehensive metabolic panel. We want our glucose, it'll say all the way to 100 that you're fine. We want your glucose for the most part in the 80s, right? That's more of an optimal range. Again, there are variances in between people, but that's a good way from a functional standpoint. If your protein is out of this range, it's an indicator that you don't have quality stomach acid starting your digestion off, okay? Again, these are just some of the things, guys. I don't expect you to write it down and know all these things and try to diagnose yourself. That's not remotely, we're not even talking about diagnosis. We're just talking about pure functional deficiencies. I'm not trying to diagnose your body with any of this on any of these markers, but it's just, again, something's not quite right there is what you want to understand. And how this is done is by people who, there's literally groups of us that constantly are comparing results and values with each other and saying, who's seeing results with what around here? And there's more and more people kind of shifting this way because people realize there's limitations inside the conventional markers. By the way, vitamin D, Quest has 30 to 100 as their lab range. 80 is where we want that. So we're supposed to get vitamin D from the sun, especially in Wisconsin, we don't get a lot of it, so.
I just pulled up my lab results because I just had my blood work done and my vitamin D is 11 and they never told me
Never said a thing.
anything.
That is, I can't even tell you how much that frustrates me internally for you, because that in and of itself is a pre-hormone. Vitamin D is, again, on every cell of your body, it's massive for your immune system, it's massive for your hormone regulation. So what you want to do is get vitamin D3, and we can talk about supplementing afterwards, what dosage and everything else for you on that one. Triglycerides, 80 is kind of a gauge on that one. If we see it above or below that drastically, we know there's blood sugar regulation issues. They don't have a lower limit, there's like below, I think it's 130, you're good to go. White blood cells is your immune system. This is RDW gets us indicated for B12. Hemoglobin A1C, really important marker. That's your blood sugar over the course of 3 months. All right. So we want to know that number. C-reactive protein. That's a direct inflammatory marker. So we want to know how inflammation is doing inside your body. That's what we want to see happen. It's a direct marker, which will coincide with homocysteine. So if we see one of those, we're like, okay, what's going on? And all of a sudden we see C-reactive protein, we see homocysteine high, we see ferritin outrageously high. Then we know that there's definitely an inflammatory response. We need to backtrack on why that's happening for you. Vitamin B12, the higher the number doesn't mean a whole lot to us, but if it's low, again, massive, massive implications for you. It even says, on the lab report when we get them, it says if it's like below 200, I think it says there's a little like warning sign bold, like this can cause like neurological issues in people, you know, in a percentage of people. Like this is Quest National Lab that's writing this on there, so it's a big deal when that one's low for you. TSH, again, that's just the general. If there's any indication of thyroid issues, you want to run, boom, free T3, free T4, TPO, and antibodies, little Pac-Man that just basically attack your thyroid. All right, it's the number one cause of not having enough thyroid function in your body. There's also one here called reverse T3. Again, if we're really dealing with issues, we're going to run that one. Insulin's important. We want to know how you're regulating blood sugar. Vitamin A is a big one, especially in autoimmune issues. We're starting to see those, so we'll often run those. Like I said, you're going to get a really comprehensive one that'll run this with insulin, about $250 in the office. Again, if you have an MD or someone that's open to running those and suggestions, and your insurance covers it, please go in and run it. Seriously, get the numbers, and that way you can start to compare down and figure out where things are going for you. So does that help a little bit as far as just having some of those? Again, I don't expect you to go in and know all the nuances of this stuff, but if you pull up your blood work and you start to see like, wait a minute here, I'm like really off on some of these. Might be a good idea to look into it a little bit, all right? All right, so let's dive in. So that was blood work, hair analysis. This is, one of my mentors, been doing this for 20 years. So fortunate to have him pour into my life. Hair analysis, they did a 2020 special, I think it was like in the 90s, and they just tore hair analysis apart. Because they went in, they cut dog's hair, they cut human hair, they mixed it all up in bags, they sent it to all these different labs, and they just completely made a mockery of it. And I can see why, because that's not at all remotely what you do when you look at hair analysis. The couple of concepts, if you do hair analysis and get it looked at, one is you want to make sure you take hair from the back of your head and you're only using about 1 inch, okay? Then you send it to one of 2 labs in the country that doesn't wash the hair before they do it. So it's not like us washing the shampoo, they strip alcohol and they use that to wash the samples before they actually process it. Without those 2 measures, you're not comparing apples to apples, right? And so we want to have consistency so we can measure these things down the road and actually see how your body's changing, okay? But the 2 things that this one's going to give us that's phenomenal, it's going to give us on a cellular level how your body's using minerals, and it's going to give us toxic metals, okay? And hair is going to be an average, instead of being right now like blood work, this is when we take your blood work, this is how your body's been doing right at that moment. Hair is going to be about the average of 2 to 3 months how your body's been doing, okay? Which is awesome because we can also get a gauge on how your adrenals, your stress response has been doing inside there as well, some of your digestion, some of these other markers that we can kind of start to correlate a little bit. Limitations are exactly what it says. It only measures minerals. We don't get to see vitamin D, we don't get to see B12, ferritin, all those kind of issues inside there. It takes longer to see change when we do a hair analysis. Blood work, depending on what's going on, you can run a blood work and literally 2 weeks later you'll see blood markers change. 3 months is usually a typical run period that will run blood work again, sometimes longer. Hair analysis, it takes a little bit longer to actually see it kind of balance out and shift. Anywhere from 6 months and then to a year, maybe longer as we go through those things, depending if we're on the right track as we go through. So that's it takes longer. Different labs, we talked about that, and it's the average 2 or 3 months. So I was allowed to use this graph to show you that really intuitive, when we look at hair analysis, what we should see are these black bars line up in this gray area. All right, optimal for the cells will be these dark gray bars. You can see right here, boom, This is not an optimal, right? Okay, so we look at it, when we see this is important because 40 is optimal for calcium, or at 155, that doesn't mean we have too much calcium, it means our body's not absorbing the calcium that we have. When we don't absorb the calcium we have, it doesn't just get excreted, it gets deposited elsewhere. So that's not the early stage of osteoporosis, that's the early stage of osteoarthritis. Like, that's a big deal when it comes to those issues. Same thing with, now again, we go through potassium, sodium, or magnesium, sodium, potassium. The ratios kind of help us gauge different ways your body's handling, especially your sodium-potassium ratio is a great indicator of your stress response. So a lot of times we can see, like, does your body have a tendency to go to that fight or flight response? Does it kind of like, ooh, there's a tiger in the room, and it goes to that response even though there's not the tiger, like someone just said your name loud, you know, like, oh, what's going on, you know, and it just causes blood sugar issues, and it's just, it becomes a mess. But this one's important. We look at toxic metals here. So you can see that all of these, 0 is normal for toxic metals, but when we were through the chart, or off the chart on mercury, and the question is like, well, how does that happen? Like, what causes mercury to come in like that? 2 main sources of that. First one's going to be fish, okay? Absolutely. Fish has what's called methyl mercury. It's a very highly absorbable form of mercury. So even if you get a good clean fish, if there's any mercury in there, the chance of you actually getting that in your body is fairly high, unfortunately, because we've just toxified our waters. And this person fished multiple times throughout the week, right? It was multiple times throughout the week. Good clean source of fish, don't get me wrong, but it was multiple times we saw it. So we made some changes trying to go through, and this was about 6 months later, and we see that it's coming down on here now. It's not perfect yet. We're still working on that. We bring it down, but we saw some good change there. But what we got to see are the mineral usage on a cellular level and some of the toxic metals. And this stuff, the toxic metals, those things can just sit in the background, and they can be the in-law that you don't realize is yelling at you, right? Like, it just sits there, it's screaming at your cells, it's robbing energy from your pathways. Because, guys, when you feel terrible, like literally, when you have the flu, when you just like down for the count, you're tired, you're angry, like, how well is your mental game at that point? Like, it's so tough. And so again, what we want to do is cooperate with the psychology and the physiology to make sure that you have all the tools and resources necessary to be the best you possibly can be, right? We want to be the best parent. That's why we don't want our kids getting angry in the first place, right? We want to try to regulate those things so we can have a level conversation with that person, okay? Last one I want to talk about here with you is going to be the Dutch urine hormone testing. So this is what I referenced briefly. So this directly measures, you go, well, how do you measure cortisol? How do you measure the breakdown of these things? This is the best way that's come on in the last couple of years. You can measure it through blood, but again, that's just one spot measurement. And in cortisol, you want to see the rhythm. It should be high in the morning, and it should kind of taper off throughout the day. Many times you'll see drops and shifts based on the adrenal fatigue, they call it, or adrenal insufficiencies. So you can do that, but you have to take your blood throughout the day multiple times. Not realistic. So then they developed this saliva test. So you spit in these little vials throughout the day, and they measure the cortisol so they can kind of measure up and see the rhythm. But then the problem was exactly like blood, where it was just the free cortisol that was circulating in your body. We had no idea what actually happened to cortisol, because cortisol, when it gets broken down, there's cortisol, and then there's cortisol and cortisone. All right, cortisone is the ineffective form. So you basically have cortisol that they measure, and then it goes to active, inactive. Well, if I measure your circulating hormone, and it looks great, but then all of a sudden we were able to look down the stream and see how it actually got broken down, and it's completely the ineffective form, that's going to mess with your body. It's going to mimic not having enough, even though we thought we're good. Does this make sense a little bit? So then they had a 24-hour urine collection, it's called. So to measure the breakdown of these metabolites, you collect your urine for 24 hours, we send it to a lab, we can see the breakdown. Problem then is that that's 24 hours of urine. We have no idea the cycle of the hormones, right, as they're going through. So a guy who's, I just love, he's a nerd when it comes to this stuff. He's like, there's got to be a better way. And so what he does is he combined both. Where now instead of spitting in a cup, you basically pee on a gauze, all right? And throughout the day, you do that 4 or 5 times a day, and they're able to map out both the rhythm of that, and they're able to see the breakdown of the metabolites at the exact same time. So this next one, you're either going to love this chart, or it's going to be a huge nerdy like hope freak for you, because this thing gets a little nerdy when you actually look at the results that you get back. You get to measure all these things. And I'm telling you, it's really hard to make it very simple. So when you're explaining it to patients, they're like, what do I do? just what do I do? You know, like, just, okay, I get it, what do I do? Here's a couple things I just want to point out to you. All right, so when we look at it, cholesterol is at the top. So cholesterol is a precursor to a lot of your hormones. That's the one thing I really want you to pull out here to understand, because what are a lot of Americans on? Cholesterol lowering medications called statins. Guys, menopausal women, when their cholesterol goes up a little bit, it's because they're going through this whole hormonal change. A lot of times your cholesterol is going to go up naturally because it wants to help deal with that stress of the hormone change. And so for you to suppress that, man, you're not only suppressing the fat cells and the precursor to those hormones, but you're suppressing the fat inside your brain, which is made of cholesterol. You're suppressing the fat that's around your nerves. The myelin sheath that insulates it, it causes some issues inside there. So you don't just want to jump in because it's all of a sudden above 200, boom, there's your statin. Oh man, that's a slippery game. I'm not licensed to talk about medications, take you on or off medications, but I can just tell you some of the cautionary things that you want to look out for if you're doing them, okay? Like I said, here's what we're talking about. We can see the actual breakdown, and if it's breaking down. The really cool thing is that, again, I don't know if you got females know this, but you have 3 types of estrogen that floats around: estrone, estradiol, estriol. That's an important one to figure out. There's only certain ones that are more dangerous when it comes to cancers. So you'll see the breakdown there. Measure some of the reductase activity to see how they're going through. Great. All right. Like I said, that's all you necessarily need to know about that specific chart. But that one, the problem with that one is that it's not that familiar yet. It's definitely not covered by insurance. Neither is hair analysis, right? So people have to pay out of pocket for it. So automatically, you're not going to see a lot of people using it because it's not covered by their insurance. And then to have someone understand, a lot of docs who are kind of getting into functional medicine, they're so familiar and comfortable with the certain process that they've been doing for a while that they just kind of put you into their box, right? And I understand that, I really do, because there's a ton of information. But the problem comes into, and it always gets me, what drives me forward and forward and forward, is when the person, the N of 1, sits in front of you, and it's someone that you care about, and someone that they care about, and you're like, Doc, what's going on? Why isn't there an answer here? Man, I'm convicted that, man, God doesn't create junk. Like, we got to cooperate the way your body was designed. Like, there's something going on here that we have to figure out and try to connect the dots for you. So it just constantly drives me to look into this stuff and stay on top of it. It's kind of like talking about Bill. It's kind of a passion / a job at the exact same time, and I feel really fortunate for it. But we're constantly battling. Well, if this is true, how come everyone doesn't do it, right? Like, how come medical doctors aren't doing this thing regularly? Guys, that's just not the system that we're around in our culture. We're a symptom-based care. You have a headache, you have this, you have that, you go in, you get an Advil, you see a change on it, we're good to go. Because we're based on how we look and how we feel. But the shortcomings are great because, again, that can just constantly lead us down this path where all of a sudden, I don't know what happened. I was fine the next day, and all of a sudden I had the heart attack. Well, you were literally eating Big Macs every day for the last 20 years leading up to it. I hate to tell you, you know what I mean? Like, there was probably something we could have done. I don't want to say, you know what I mean? Like, that's extreme examples, obviously, but that concept is so true. So whether we're working on our mental game, whether we're just being more conscious of the things we're putting in our body, what we're surrounding ourselves with, our culture, our environment is getting more difficult and difficult. Just to take a back seat and be like, no, I don't have to worry about it. No, again, I would argue that it's one of the most important things that you can do at this time is be conscious of it and make efforts to move it in the right direction. So, like I said, blood work, it's going to run you about $250. Hair analysis is $140 in our office. The Dutch hormone testing is about $350 to get that one done. That's why I say it's fairly expensive when I rate that one down. You know, on the grand scheme of things, now, don't get me wrong, you do all that stuff for, and you add up, it's under $1,000. That's a pretty good price when you really look at the grand scheme of things. But it just depends on where that person's at. I never pretend to know, time and finance of people.
So if you dove into this 100%, what frequency would you be looking at to trend it?
Beautiful. Blood work, we're looking at about every 3 months. You want to trend that one until you stabilize some of the major markers. If that person's got really, really bad autoimmune issues, some of the other stuff, and they can come in every 4 weeks and get a blood drawn because you're working them pretty hard as far as how the lifestyle changes you're going to make. Hair analysis. First one's about 6 months, the next one's about a year after. So, and then Dutch hormone, that depends. And guys, here's the thing about hormone. I actually don't run that one that often because if you have cortisol issues, if you have these things, it's most likely, if we see it in the other stuff, it's most likely going to be blood sugar issues that we have to address anyways. And then there's this whole hormone replacement thing. And that's a slippery slope if you start getting into hormone replacement because only your body knows exactly what you need at the right time when you're doing those things. So for you to artificially put a hormone in, here's what happens. Your body says, hey, we're going to produce estrogen, let's pick estrogen, it's broad scope. Let's just put estrogen. Okay, great. Now we're gonna put a synthetic form of estrogen. Your body's like, oh, we have estrogen. Let's downregulate our normal response. And so now you're completely going off of a dose that isn't taking into consideration your brain, right? It's analyzing 100 million chemical reactions every second, so it's constantly altering these things, fine-tune. And what do? Oh, take 60 milligrams 3 times a day, or rub this cream on. You see what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of variables that go in, and it's a slippery slope. It's great because people feel great right away, but man, you start to look at them a year, 2 years, 3 years on the road, it's a different animal. So that one, if you're really in that one, and you gotta measure that a lot as you're going through. I don't do direct hormone replacement, but the general rule of thumb on hormone, you do not mess with a hormone unless you test it first and retest it down the road. That's because, like I said, you just have no idea what that thing is doing as you're going through. So that's with all of it. The concept is this. You take all those in. If you take any single analysis, any single marker, and you look at it and you say, oh, here's the problem. You just try to hit it on the head. Yeah, the probability of you actually getting that on the head is very low based on one marker. But if you look at a marker, it matches another marker, and now that matches what the symptoms the patient's coming in with their history, and you start to gather, you're like, okay, this makes more sense. That's when you start to say, okay, great, here's our course of action. Let's reanalyze this down the road. Are you feeling better? Are you feeling worse? Are you doing what's going on there? And then retest certain markers as needed. That's kind of the approach that we use in the office, right? So there's just a couple minutes left. Any questions on anything when we go over this stuff? I know we hit a ton of stuff in a short amount of time. Yeah.
Do you happen to know if a person chooses to have this done, you pay with your HSA money?
Yes, HSA money. I've had 9 out of 10 say yes to HSAs. 9 out of 10. Every once in a while, because we 9 out of 10. There's this one. There wasn't 1 out of 10 that's like they just give the patient hassle, and so they've been paid, but it's just a hassle to deal with them. But then they end up coming through. So HSAs we haven't had problems with. Yeah, yeah. Other questions as we go through? I had one, the hangry one. Like I said, we had that, and then someone asked me about ketosis as well. Earlier today, we just were talking a little bit about ketosis. That's a really popular term that you're going to hear of. It's coming up more and more and more. There's a lot of research coming out on it. Phenomenal for certain individuals. If you're a person that gets hangry, do not try getting into ketosis. Your adrenals are too weak. You can't handle it. If your energy dropping in the afternoon, if you're having trouble sleeping at night, falling asleep, staying asleep, your blood sugar just causes too many issues. You don't want to just fast into ketosis. There's ways to kind of around it, but just to generalize, like, oh, I'm going to eat a bunch of protein, kind of Atkins style. That's really, really dangerous. So there's times and places for all this stuff in certain people, and that's the hard thing. You want to take all the information you have and then put the best lifestyle course management inside there for that person. But you will hear that word ketosis coming up more and more, for sure. So, yes?
Are there any certifications or standards for using these tests?
You know what, that is also the really difficult thing, because no, not really. You know, there's certain, like, associations that try to, like there's the Institute of Functional Medicine, but you go in there, it's a guarantee you're going to get gut tested, you're going to be doing a stool analysis, running through those kind of things. And then again, now there's okay, does the adrenal issues cause the gut issues, or the gut issues cause the adrenal issues? And everyone's kind of battling out there. The truth be told, it's the N of 1. It's the person that sits across from you and you look at it, you feel comfortable with it, you're like, this is a logical conclusion, I can trust this person. That's honestly your best bet at this point, because it's so varied right now. It's so hard. I wish I had a better answer. That's seriously why I feel so fortunate for my mentors, because they've been able to, having that concept of, guys are great jumping, you cooperate with your body, looking at these components from a functional standpoint, just helps me kind of weed out some of the stuff that's like, yeah, this is just trying to treat a symptom, or this is trying to do this. And we can objectively not necessarily care about if you come in with type 2 diabetes. People want to label the disease and blame that all the time, right? Oh, it's your diabetes that does this, it's your diabetes. Guys, yeah, the diabetes is a consequence, it's a result of abnormal physiology. So what's going on with your physiology that we can now start to shift and correct? I don't care what we call it. I really don't. But let's just cooperate with your body and start to move this in the right direction. Yeah, I wish I had a better answer on that one. There's just, people ask, and I get that all the time. Hey doc, I'm moving, I'm going to California, I'm going to Colorado, who can I go with there? And I'm like, dude, I love you, I don't know. I really don't. And it kind of breaks your heart a little bit. So hopefully as time goes on, there'll be more congruency. Like I said, that's the great and bad thing about chiropractic. One office looks completely different than the next. You just don't know inside there. So, any other questions? No? 1 o'clock, we nailed it. If you guys have anything afterwards, you can ask me. I have some cards if you want them. If you have any questions, you can email me at the office. Kristen's my office manager. She'll relay the message for me, and we'll go from there. I'll see these are up here for you. All right?
You have a drawing?
Yeah. For a book? So, yeah, you got it.
He's not giving his book away.
Exactly. Bill, I couldn't do that, you know? Yeah. No, that's awesome. No, guys, seriously, thanks for having me on. I really do appreciate it. I hope you took out something from today. At least you can kind of, to gauge, take away. Health is not how you look and how you feel. It's how you
Function.
function. Bill, you nailed it.
Hey.
You nailed it.